Welcome to Crypto Talk Radio, the podcast for everyday investors like you. Visit us on the web at cryptotalkradio.net. And now, here's your host, Leister.
Thank you for that, Bailey, and welcome everybody out there in Crypto Talk Radio, found at cryptotalkradio.net. For those that were not aware, Leister is a gamer. I would not say that I'm the same gamer that I used to be because games suck now compared to the old school. Games used to be good. Games used to be fun. Games used to occupy my time. Of course, I work and that takes up time. And then I'm working my home. That takes up time. I got bills. I actually just got a tax bill for my business. I have to get that shipped down and I'm going to take care of that one. So there's a lot that gets in the way of just sitting down and enjoying a good book or enjoying a good video game. But I still like to game for the ever so often. I'm going to say at this point, it's got to be like a once a year thing when I find a game that's worth freaking playing. For those curious, because some might be curious, because I think the demographic of the show is such that you might be gamers or waning gamers. I'm a role-playing gamer. When I say role-playing game, I'm not talking crap like Elden Ring or crap like Dark Souls, which I don't consider a role-playing game. I don't consider those real role-playing games. When I talk role-playing game, it's, young, underrated boy finds legendary sword and saves the world. And along the way, he saves some girl. That's what I mean. That's what I want. There are exceptions. Fire Emblem, Three Houses, one of my top 10 games, but generally speaking, that's what I like to see. So right now I'm going through Persona 5 Royal, even though it's censored as crap, I got it for a good deal. So I'm going through that. And then I'm going through Nayuta, Legend of Nayuta, which I think is a terrible game, but I'm going through it just to say I beat it. So I got a free time is the point. I purposely ignored crypto. And I've been saying that a couple of episodes, right? That I don't pay a lot to cryptocurrency. I don't pay a lot of attention to it. Hopefully the red you're seeing gives you a sense of why I'm kind of just sitting off the side and not paying attention to it. Because I don't stare at this stuff like a lot of people do. I don't let it bother me. I don't let it stress me. I don't let it anything. It's just there. And at some point, it'll do something. But for right now, it's not really doing anything. That said, I did have a number of updates I wanted to talk about on today's show. To follow up, I did an out of cycle. This is not really an update. It's just kind of a follow-on only. I did an out of cycle about Pavel Durov getting arrested. Other people followed me. So that means I was ahead of the game. That was good. But there's more rumors about this business. I can't prove anything that I'm about to share with you. This is what was stated. I have no evidence. Apparently, Pavel Durov, he was actually photographed on this one. Apparently, he palled up with some chick influencer who calls herself a crypto coach, whatever the hell that means. Calls herself a crypto coach, but apparently he was jet setting around in a very expensive jet. It's the same guy who told Tucker Carlson he doesn't spend a lot on things, regardless. But allegedly, the theory now is that this girl might have been a honeypot, where she might have set him up because she was getting the inside scoop on what was going on and then was an inside agent. Again, I have no evidence of any of this. I'm saying it was stated in certain public forums that this guy got a honeypot attack against him with a chick. And, I looked at her. I guess, but to each their own. I don't understand. I don't. Because that seems to keep happening. Green Chart, which was a project by Binance Smart Chain, gave the keys to that duck face girl. You got this business over here. Then it got me thinking, what if, just speculate here. What if Cassie is one of those agents and she's trying to get on the inside of Ben Armstrong, not physically, I'm talking, with this. What if she's trying to get on the inside and she's trying to set him up on the sly? What if all the stuff that's happening to him is an inside job? Because when there's a girl that comes out of thin air, seems like it's a pattern. So that's, anyway, what happened with Pavel Durov allegedly is there was some honeypot, some chick who, again, YouTube, she had a channel, the whole nine, calling herself a crypto coach, was jet setting around with this dude and theories that she might have been on the inside of the government, and that's why they nailed him on these trumped up charges. So if I get any more information, I'll follow up on it. People think he should be out in about another month because there's no real case against the guy. You can't lock somebody up for creating software, although the guy who created Napster served some time. So if we're going to be fair, he should probably serve some time too, because the guy who created Napster did serve some time. Anyway, let's chat some other cryptocurrency things that are a little bit more interesting to talk about. Okay, CoinDesk.com. We're going to zoom out to the month chart for Bitcoin today because Bitcoin took a major crap in the last 24 hours. A high of 63,000, crapped down to 58,000 just a couple hours ago, currently hovering around the 59.6 mark. Slight recovery, but not great recovery. There's a lot happening, and I speculated that Bitcoin was going to get the brunt of it. I also said that Ethereum's drop didn't make any sense, and why it was staying down didn't make any sense. Well, when Bitcoin got dropped as it did, Ethereum, for the first time in a long time, felt that impact. It felt a little bit of that same shift because it dropped by a pretty large percentage, a high of 2,700, a low of 2,400, currently hovering around the 24.6 mark, not recovering nearly as well as Bitcoin. So what we got is Bitcoin dropped a lot. It was like 60% drop. Ethereum dropped a lot more, like an 8% drop. Ethereum's recovery is nowhere near what Bitcoin's is, which tells me that pressure is strong on Ethereum. It also tells me that Ethereum's in a precarious position. It tells me that if Ethereum keeps going down due to factors caused by Bitcoin, we might be getting very close to the $1,900 mark for Ethereum. I know that's doomsday, but it's possible because of what this level of impact of almost 10% impact when Bitcoin dropped 5, and you know that Bitcoin's still under what's going on, tells me that Ethereum's got a ways to go and it's not getting the recovery. On whether that's sell pressure only or other factors, I can't directly say. I will suggest, as I have done, Ethereum is increasingly becoming the one that's got the greatest potential for profit gains for those that are willing to hold the line, stay the course. How long that takes, I have no idea, but I figure by the end of the year we should be seeing something better. My guess is a lot of the uncertainty of Ethereum. Part of it I'm going to be talking about on one of the updates here soon, but we also have just kind of this pending situation with the elections coming up. Uncertainty about Donald Trump, uncertainty about Kamala Harris, and so on. I think that's playing in. I think the economy is playing in. I think the world stage is playing in. So maybe outside of the natural sell pressure and disruption of Ethereum, all these factors are creating a domino effect, as we saw when Ethereum went close to $1,200, which tells me Ethereum has the greatest to gain from what's happening right now. Could be that Bitcoin goes way down because I was speculating it would go to 50,000 mark. Fortunately, it hasn't got that close. I mean, it did get to like 54 or 53. I'm saying to 50 and 49. Some said it was going to. It hasn't yet. Time will tell. Speaking about Ethereum, the Ethereum Foundation's under a massive amount of criticism from the community. Do you know why? Because of things that Leister told you to be the truth, and people didn't listen to me when I told you these things that were obvious things. And people who celebrate idiot Vitalik and all things that he does simply because he dumped on SHIB and caused it to burn out the supply and then got people's hopes up, and it hasn't gone anywhere since then. And I said that I call him an idiot because of the things he says, but I also call him an idiot because, let's be honest, the guy dumps on your head on Ethereum all the time. Him and the Ethereum Foundation are a large part of the reason that Ethereum has not been able to get to significant runs to the 5 figures that we would expect that it should have done. But there's more to it. People are doing some digging, and they're trying to understand what I've been trying to understand, which is the reason and the root cause of what's going on. 2 things were highlighted with this business. 1, major dumps, and some of these dumps are coming because of sentiment. as in they're seeing things that are causing them to say, you know what, screw you, bro. We're getting out of this business and we're going to go to a different chain because we can't trust you guys. We're seeing these dumps and we cannot support what you're doing. Here's what happened with this is Ethereum Foundation specifically. Here's what happened. There was a large 35,000 ETH transfer from the foundation's wallet out to Kraken. Kraken, of course, is one of the few exchanges that's really US friendly. When this transfer has occurred, people start looking and saying, that's a lot of freaking ETH. You're talking over $100 million worth of this business. And what's going to happen with this? And you're doing it at a time when we're already under major sell pressure. And I don't support what you're doing here, idiot Vitalik. So what the heck's going on here? Why can't you just chunk this out so you're not dumping on the freaking chart? Idiot responds, and he basically gave a Chewbacca. But he came back and he didn't say, you know, we're sorry about that, we regret that. He didn't do any of that stuff. He just basically says, doing separated chunk out is too hard to manage. Essentially, that's what he said, which is partly true, partly not true. But the bottom line is that he is not apologetic over dumping on your heads if you're on Ethereum. He's not. They're continuing to do it. Apparently, they're going to continue to do it. And they have no intention of trying to insulate from the downward pressure by simply chunking it out, which they could do. It just means more work for them, and they don't want to do it. So when I tell you that Ethereum has not recovered strong, and because of this recent Bitcoin disruption, Ethereum seems to have been suppressed even further and harmed even further, and given the risk that Bitcoin has even more damage upon it, it's a compound effect. You have Ethereum being attacked from three sides. It's attacked from Bitcoin itself. It's attacked from natural sell pressure, which happens to be stronger than normal, and idiot Vitalik himself. He's killing his own child. And by virtue of killing his own child, it harms you if you're an Ethereum investor and or you're on these tokens that are on one of the Ethereum chains, whether it's the primary chain or a secondary chain. So I'm hopeful, perhaps naively, but I'm hopeful that some of you will stop bowing down and celebrating idiot Vitalik as you've done, because I told you the guy's been dumping on your head. He doesn't care that the chart is already damaged and he's just dumping. It's getting close. You know, the amount of money is fractional, but the point is these are repeated. These keep happening. It's getting close to Ethereum essentially rug pulling you. Now it's not a rug pull in the official sense. There's money available. You can trade it. I'm saying that this activity is very little different from those scummy devs that dump off a pre-sale, right? That's essentially what you're seeing here. And he doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about the loss of money. He doesn't care about the loss of price. He doesn't care about the loss of sentiment. He's going to continue dumping and dumping on your head. So please, like the guy said, or the person said, who wrote up that beautiful write-up on Leica, who said we need to stop worshiping all these idiots out there. That's what you need to do. Stop the hero worship. Idiot Vitalik is not your friend. He never has. Just like CZ, they're not your allies. They're not your friends. They don't support you. They support themselves. Period, point blank. What you do with your money is what you do with your money. I'm saying that they're not worthy of your unquestioned praise. It's not, to me, it's not worth it. Speaking of large sell-offs, Bitcoin is being drawn out of exchanges. Large people, whales, for the first time, drawing their stuff out of exchanges. Drawing their stuff out of exchanges could mean one of two things. And I can't say which one it is, but one of two things. A, we're on the cusp of a major run-up. Because if you're taken out of exchanges, you're indicating that you don't plan to sell it. So if you don't plan to sell it, perhaps the sell pressure declines enough that the buys start rolling in, and as people are left over selling, perhaps those people sell for higher prices because they know there's demand. There are people out there that want it because it's dipped, right? So perhaps we see a run up back to the 62, 63,000 mark or 64,000 mark at the peak in the short after we've had some of this disruption kind of dwindle, which in theory, we should watch Ethereum because we should see that Ethereum then goes back somewhere close to, let's say, the 27, 28,000 mark, if not higher. But I think this might actually be a good thing. I think this might turn into something, and I'm intrigued to know what that's going to be. I'm also intrigued to understand the impact on Ethereum, especially with idiot Vitalik dumping on your head. I'm always skeptical of some of these people that they claim to be a part of something or they're supportive of something, and they don't practice what they preach. Instead, they just dump on you. One person that has not dumped on you, I mean, unless you bought into it, but has not dumped on you, I still like the dollar. Former President Trump has launched a new NFT series called America First. These NFTs are linked to Bitcoin. I have mixed opinion about this one, but let me just kind of go deeper on this one. He announced it on his True Social. They're issued by the same place that does his other NFTs. So he's all in on the NFTs. Before, remember, he called Bitcoin a scam. He said all this is crap. And then I like these NFTs, they're kind of big. And then all of a sudden he goes all in and yells it and then offers it. Now, these are different because they are tied to a tangible assets piece. So there's shoes, there's dinners, there's all sorts of stuff with it. Even for the nutcases, if you wanted a piece of a suit that he wore, that's something that you can get on this one. So the price of these is not anywhere near as nuts as we saw the other business where that thing was just climbing for no damn reason. And they experienced a pump and dump. But Donald Trump, for his credit, has not used this to take money from you. He's putting them out there. He's putting them out there the way that you should do them. They're a collectible something. And as a collectible something, they have certain intrinsic value to certain people that support him. And as part of it, he does make money because obviously he's the mentor. But you still get the collectible something. And if he pairs it to physical assets, which I think is a smart move, sells it for physical assets, like this is the way that it should be done. Not the other garbage he was doing before. This, I think, is a very good strategy for him. Time will tell whether or not it's going to turn into something or nothing. As I record this, the price is slightly trending down, but most of them can be bought for about $200-$300, which isn't too bad. I don't think that the vast majority of the mainstream would buy these, because you got to think that the vast majority of people who would want this probably don't make that much money. That's a theory. I can't say for sure, but I would assume the vast majority would not want this. Now I say that he's not dumped on you because he's not. But I question his focus on NFTs. Not because I don't think that, again, collectibles, right? Physical assets, it's cool. But I question the NFTs as opposed to something else, because it feels like if I were managing him or I were recommending something to him, I would tell him straight up to just buy the frickin' one of these foundations, right? Like one of these failing ones, like Phantom's failing, like one of these failing ones, it's immediately going to spike again, and then put a staff in there to fix it and put it back up strat. So I would take an existing literal blockchain foundation and I would fix it and get it back up to what it needs to be and let it thrive and let it succeed and compete with the other ones out there. Like that's what I would do, because that's going to get him, he would automatically have exposure on exchanges unless the exchanges are stupid. He'd have exposure on exchanges. They're going to run up because it's Trump. They're easier to get into. You don't have to have special wallets. They're traded on the vast majority of said exchanges, and you could exchange them for fiat currency. Like I personally would not. I know there was chatter about him creating I wouldn't do that. Just buy one of the freaking things. If I were managing him, that's what I would tell him. Buy one of the existing ones and just run with it. It's going to climb just because your name's attached to it. Hell, call it rename it the Trump Taj Mahal blockchain or whatever. I don't know. I did an update a while back around Maker, which was backed by MakerDAO. And I felt like it was pretty intriguing for what it's doing. Part of the problem that I noticed was that MakerDAO, first of all, it's not available. The actual, DAO experience is not available to US traders, which I thought was stupid. But the price movement I thought was strong. I loved what they were doing. I love what they was describing. Well, recently they announced that they're rebranding to Sky, and they're changing one of the stable coins that's a key to the Maker ecosystem, which is the DAI token. The DAI token has been under fire for a long time. Part of the problem with the DAI token is the perception of centralization and the perception that if something were to happen, your assets could be frozen from you, which caused people to be concerned and skeptical. As a result, it started to lose some popularity. They're claiming, this maker, they're claiming that they're going to be creating a new token, and they're going to migrate the DAI over to this new token. There's some comments about this business, but I want to chat about what this is doing, because I think some people misunderstood the flaws in the original DAI situation. So MakerDAO originally said, we wanted to create something that was independent. That's the whole point of the DAO, right? It's independent, standalone, no one authority can change it. People did analysis on the DAI, and they found that the DAI could still be frozen, and they had left hooks in there that allowed it to be exploited, irrespective of what the MakerDAO team said. So censorship is coming into play here. Now, this USDS, these people are claiming that USDS is even worse, that it essentially is an open door for the governments, plural, to be able to freeze assets on this business. Now, the co-founder of MakerDAO came back and said there is a freeze function in the new code that is true. However, two things. One, you don't have to go to the USDS token, this new stable coin, if you don't want to. The DAI will still be out there. Two, this USDS will have a freeze function. Claimed that DAI does not have a freeze function, is immutable and cannot be altered, and will still be available. This contradicts other findings that said that DAI could still be frozen. My theory, and it's only a theory because I haven't dug deep into these, but my theory is that DAI, simply because of the way that it's been exposed to exchanges as well as to the various, staking situations and all these, similar to the way SHIB is out of their control, not necessarily that could be frozen, but that these different outlets, all these different tools could be frozen, which by its virtue would freeze liquidity, which by virtue would freeze the token. In other words, not that the devs themselves would do something on DAI, but rather all these different utility sources could be taken over, hacked, frozen, whatnot, which would impact the liquidity availability for DAI and thus essentially be freezing the perimeter. That's the theory. It's only a theory. I haven't dug deep. All I know is what I was told. And I believe it was LUSD where they said, that gave me the comparison that said, here's what you need to watch out for on DAI. At the bottom of this, there was more chat around doing something that allows people who are really concerned about that risk to have their own type of stable coin that's just off to the side. That never panned out, never went anywhere. So right now, as far as I know, you don't have to take any actions on it, but it is possible that there could be something that happens in the future. I will tell you that most stable coins, some of the large ones that you might be aware of, have a freeze function built into them. And they do that because if there's illegal activities connected to the transfer of funds through these stable coins, the various governments, plural, but mostly the US, want to be able to intercept and block those transactions. When I say block the transactions, you might think that if you just avoid holding them that you're safe. You're not, because these are paired on liquidity pools. If the liquidity, and in some cases you could see that it's tied to, let's say, Ethereum. Just because it's tied to Ethereum, say a Uniswap, will still follow a path that at some point is using, I'll say USD Tether, in order to get over to a different token that happens to have that as its liquidity pair partner as opposed to ETH. So even though you're not directly transacting it, your wallet address is still following that path. some of these DApps have taken the step of building an intermediary that obfuscates that transaction. BitGet's one of those. BitGet Wallet is one where the transaction you submit goes to them. They then do a transfer that it's obfuscated and then it sends it right back to you. Change Now is another one. However, those are DApps that could be intercepted and blocked and So there, as far as I know, there's nothing you need to do but be aware this has happened. And here's what's going to come out of this business. Now, let me just wrap up with a couple of thoughts on the whole big picture now. We are seeing a shift in mindset, a shift in confidence, a shift in sentiment, a move towards a different world for cryptocurrency. If you feel it, it is nowhere different than from 2021. It's nowhere the same, I should say. It's not the same. It's nowhere in the same class. The feeling of what we had. 2021 felt like a Wild Wild West, and now we still don't have any rigor. We still don't have any regulation. We still don't have any strong sense. What we have is kind of people tiptoeing into stuff, right? They're playing with their blocks on the floor, but nobody's building anything. And I want to just chime in and say, I know there's some listening to the show that have been listening for a while, cryptotalkradio.net or cryptotalk.fm, and I appreciate you. Thank you for coming back. But I know some have been looking for feedback about specific things to get into, specific token projects. And I've not done that. And the reason I've not been doing that, first of all, the stuff that's out there is straight garbage. I saw this monkey shit Inu. I saw it, but I think it's garbage. You might want to get in it. I'm not going to cover it because I know it's garbage. When I say I know it's garbage because regardless of its spread and regardless of its price, it is not the kind of token that is going to appeal to somebody like myself. And if you're new, by the way, welcome and thank you. But if you're new, you don't know what I just said, what I mean. What I mean, my mantra hasn't changed. I like passive, but I also like that it's trying to do something that nobody else is doing and it's trying to think outside the bubble. These are important to me because it goes to longevity. That rhymes. If I look at Everrise, as suck as Everrise is right now, it was the closest I could think of to what I wanted. And there was a couple of other ones that tried and failed. And I'm still waiting in the wings, hoping for that one to stand out in a crowd and show me there's somebody who's going to bridge, finally, the gap between cryptocurrency and the real world. And I felt that gaming is the key that none of them are capitalizing on. Sony is releasing a Sonium blockchain. Initially, it's internally, eventually to be external. It's somewhat intriguing. The problem is it's probably going to force you to have the PS5. Now I have a PS5, but it sits in the box collecting dust because the games suck. And I don't want a membership or a subscription for it. So I don't think they're going to do it right. But it's at least something. It's something to start with. So I watched that one. I watch ones where it's trying to do something real. It's trying to do something that bridges it, that cannot be defeated by governments because it becomes a service that's serving a good. That's what I don't see yet. Could you imagine if somebody were smart enough to take blockchain technology and use it to support podcasting? Because the files that you think about for podcasting, the audio, the video, the images, you could change the game if you could make it decentralized to where we control, for example, our own supported, node. The infrastructure is there. Nobody wants to do that because generally speaking, the money is not there for it unless you run ads. If you run ads, it defeats the purpose because the ads need more data than the blockchains can support. So I'm giving one example of where I am looking for the next big thing that's solving a problem, a legitimate problem, that's trying to create a new something. Could you imagine if somebody could figure out a way that blockchain could power the ability to stream media to where we can actually compete with the Netflixes of the world? Because if you're WWE fan, for example, going to Netflix for Raw is the death knell for them, where Netflix is crap, absolute crap, versus just staying on cable. In fact, increasing the footprint of cable is what I would do. It's their stuff, but then got me thinking, there's so much raw potential with blockchain technology that nobody's using it because they haven't figured out exactly how to make it work, and they still think NFTs and all the garbage is the right answer, and it's not. Solana, the run-ups we just saw, they didn't last. So that's why I don't stare at cryptocurrency, because nobody seems to have the right focus that I'm looking for. So I apologize if you're one of those that's looking for me to talk about a token. Believe me, I would love to offer you coverage on something I thought was worth your time. I've yet to see something I think is worth your time. Doesn't mean that there's not stuff out there to make money if you're a gambler and want to roll the dice. I'm talking about something that looks like it's going to make you wealthy in the long run, that I feel assured about, that I feel confident about. If Sonium becomes a thing and they release it to the public, I might talk about that one because I think it's a good starting point. Other than that, there's not really anything that tickles my fancy. I still look for it though. And, I trade, but I don't trade heavily and I don't stare at it. If you're staring at it and getting stressed, it's because you're staring at it. Now's not the time to stare at it. Now's the time to turn off the phone, read a good book, play some video games. I would say watch movies, but they suck. I'd say watch TV, but it sucks. Go for a walk or do something other than technology. Get your mind off of it and then maybe come back, and once everything is kind of recovered, so turn on your alerts so it tells you when something is increased at least 5%, and then make the trades. Or just completely ignore it and wait for dips, major dips, and then buy in. That's the DCA. On one of these updates, probably not a cycle, I'm going to dig into the concept of DCA because it occurred to me that some people may not realize what I mean. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I think it'll be beneficial and hopefully entertaining for some folks.